This is Poppy. She's from Flydocs, an amazing business. If you've been on a plane recently, the chances are the airline you've been flying with use Flydocs. They're an amazing organisation. I'm going to pass over to Poppy. Be nice and ask some questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So as Robbie said, I'm Poppy and I work for a company called Flydocs. We have been using monday.com for about 8 months now, so we're still fairly new and we're finding our feet. So my presentation today is just going to be around my experience as a monday.com user at Flydocs. And I'm just going to be talking about kind of why we chose to work with it, how we use it, and what benefits we've gained from implementing it into our processes. So first of all, a little bit about me. So as I say, my name's Poppy. I am a lead integration engineer at Flydocs. So I work as part of the kind of onboarding team. So when a new client comes on board and they need to start using our systems, I look after them from contract signature all the way through to going live. So all of those aspects in between are kind of overseen by me. And then I have a team of engineers who I work with to implement everything, essentially. I've been with Flydocs for about 18 months now, but I've been working within the SaaS industry for about 5 years. And I'm very fortunate because I did use monday.com at a previous company, so I had a bit of a cheat sheet, if you like, which has been good. And I accidentally told Lauren about that back in January. She came to me and said, we're going to start using monday.com, and I got all excited and was like, oh yeah, I've worked with that loads. So then she appointed me as the internal guru. But no, it's been great. I really like working with monday.com, so I'm really happy to take on that role. My role at Flydocs, like I say, it's focused on onboarding and project management. But I do a lot with training as well. So I do a lot of Flydocs platform training for our clients, which is really good. And as I say, I've taken on that sort of monday.com champion role within Flydocs. So it's meant that I've ended up doing a lot of training for our teams internally as well, which has been really, really good because I get to get involved in kind of helping our teams decide how they can best use monday.com and stuff like that. So there's a lot of innovation around it, which is exciting. And then leadership. So I've recently taken on more of a leadership role this year, which has obviously come with a lot more admin, where monday.com has really come in useful for me for kind of tracking and making sure that I'm keeping on top of other people's progression as well as my own. So a bit about Flydocs. So we are an asset management software solutions provider. So we work with airlines all across the world, and they predominantly use our records management product. So it's a place where they can store and manage their maintenance and engineering data. So very, very technical, very heavy at times. We, like I say, we work specifically with the aviation industry. So we work with 75 airlines or thereabouts across the world. Probably quite a few of them you would have heard of, such as Virgin Atlantic, Qantas. We were founded in 2007, and we are fully owned by Lufthansa Technik. And we're about a mid-sized company, I'd say, so we have just over 300 employees. And again, we're spread all across the world, which can be fun. We implemented monday.com, like I say, at the beginning of 2023, so that's going to be quite a key focus for me in this presentation today. It's not going to be as technical as Richard's, for example. We're not quite there yet. Okay, so I'm just going to dive into why we decided to choose monday.com over other platforms. And what were the key drives for us that we were looking for in a platform, and then how we've actually started using it. So these are the 3 key things that we were looking for, really. Team collaboration is huge for us. As I said, we are a global team. We're also remote first. So that can create challenges. We have a huge team over in India, a fairly big one here in the UK. We have people in the US, and then every other country in between as well. So, we're having to deal with time zones, we're having to deal with cultural differences, language barriers, which of course can create lots of challenges with communication and collaborating together. And because up until we started using monday.com, we were using lots of different applications and platforms, everything was a bit disjointed. So that was a real thing for us. Something that's highly customizable, which I've got to say monday.com very much is. So we needed something that can be adaptable, just like us, because we do have to adapt to work with specific clients for specific projects. So we need a platform that can, kind of be tangible as well. And then versatility. So we did want to bring everyone into one location, essentially. So working with a platform that all of our departments can benefit from. Being a SaaS company, we do have lots of different departments that maybe don't really communicate with each other at times. You know, if you think we've got, software development, marketing, they don't really tend to communicate or have anything to discuss. But it would just be nice for the management team especially and the leadership team to have everything in one place. And monday.com has been able to provide us with that. So how are we using monday.com at the moment? So when we first took it on back in January, we started with the integration team, which is the team I work in. And we thought we'll just dive straight into the project management side and we'll see what we can do. So we started by creating project plans and playing around with all the different column types to see what we could really pull out of it. That took off really well, so we were really happy about that. So then we gradually started to roll it out across other departments. And I will be honest, we are still in the process of doing that. It's not complete yet, but we've had some great success so far. So our development and customer experience teams have started using it. I'd say they've been the most challenging to pull onto the platform because they're used to other systems that they work with currently. But they've started using it for things like roadmaps for development and things like ticket prioritization. So when a customer logs a support ticket, in integrations, we need to know kind of where that sits in priority so we can feedback to our clients when we expect it to be completed. And there was a bit of miscommunication, a bit disjointed in that area before. So now we have monday.com to kind of keep track of that. It's just been a lot better for us. HR recently reached out to me about using the platform because there is a lady in HR who used it at another company, and just like me, she got very excited. So they've started using it to manage new employee onboarding, so for new starters. So they're keeping it very simple at the moment. It's just a case of having a checklist. So what do we need to do when a new starter comes on board? What's their induction plan and so on? And then across all of our teams, we use it generally across the board for task lists. I don't really know what I do without monday.com at this point because my whole life exists in there. I have a huge to-do list and I'm on it day in, day out. I have the application on every device that I own. So yeah, it's been really good just for general day-to-day things. Any internal projects we have like workshops or anything like that, we manage through monday.com as well. We're very heavy on objective and key results at Flydocs. So the one that I look after in particular, or the one that I'm involved in, is sustainability. So I kind of oversee the initiatives that we complete in the UK with regards to our environmental and social impact. And while I'm dealing with my projects, it can be quite easy to let that slip. So bringing it all back into a monday.com board just allows me to remember where I'm at with everything. And then, of course, employee career progression, which just goes back to what I was saying about leadership. So in my leadership role, I need to make sure that I'm keeping on top of everybody else's progression and their knowledge gaps to make sure that they're climbing the ladder as well as me. Okay, so next I'm going to talk about how monday.com has really changed our project management process for the better. And then I'm going to show you some of my favorite features. So before monday.com, embarrassingly, we were using a combination of lots of applications. Visio, and Visio is a fantastic platform, don't get me wrong, but we were using it to create project plans, and they were static project plans. So we couldn't really do much with them. Apart from that, we would then communicate internally and externally on emails, Microsoft Teams, spreadsheets, an array of different applications, which can obviously get very confusing, especially if somebody gets left out of the loop. So as I said before, the first thing we did with monday.com was try to create a project plan or a project board. So this is an example of the project board template that we initially implemented. So bringing kind of everything together, making sure that we don't need to use all those separate applications. We've created this board off the back of that and kind of to try to drive it forward as best we can. I've just highlighted a couple of key things, really. There are so many different column options, and they're all really customizable. But the key ones that I've highlighted here are just ones that I found particularly useful. So the full task description. So what we've got here is we've got we've got our task for the engineers to complete, but then the full task description is just a free text area. But it just makes sure that if we have engineers crossing over onto different projects, they have the same understanding as each other about what they should be doing. Secondly, we've got the timeline. So it's a very basic feature, but extremely effective, especially with the blue bar that goes across. Because if you're just looking at your project boards from a glance, it's really easy to see what tasks should be currently worked on. And then you can marry that up with the status. And if the status isn't in progress, you can go back to the engineer and ask why not. It could just be that they've not updated it, which is where automation comes in. And then we have the dependency column as well. So the dependency column is really good because it means that you can link tasks to one another. And engineers can see then that to complete X task, you need to complete Y task first. A big thing for us, or a big thing for me personally, is sharing project plans with our clients. So as I said a couple of slides ago, we were using Visio to create our initial project plans. So our process would be that we would create it, send it out to the client for approval, and then they would just have one copy that they would have to refer to throughout the whole project, which isn't ideal because things can change. So if we need to update timelines, or if something's being completed and we want them to know, they're not going to be able to see that from a static Visio project plan. So again, that's where Monday has really come in useful for us. So with monday.com, and I will do a shout out, it was Robbie. Robbie introduced us to the shareable link feature in monday.com. Which has been a game changer for us. Again, it's such a simple feature, but it's been really, really effective. So it allows us to send out a simple URL link that can be accessed on any device with a web browser as long as there's an internet connection. So essentially, once we've created our project plan, we can just get this URL link, send it to our clients, and then they can view the live project progress because the URL link updates in real time with what you're doing on the board. So it's been really, really great for us. It is read-only as well, which was a big stickler for us to start with because we wanted to make sure that our clients couldn't change anything because it's not really their right to do that. So that prevents them from making any changes, but they can see exactly what's going on at all times, and it just gives them a sense of control and ownership of the project. A good thing about that as well, in terms of us having control, is that we can change the view of the board. So for example, just going back to that full task description, that's not really something we'd want a client to see. It's for engineers only. So what we've done is we've hidden that column from the URL link, so they can't see that. Okay, kept it relevant. And because it's a URL link, it is really easy to just share amongst each other. So within an airline, you have a hierarchy. Usually we will deal with the project managers. They will have management above them, asking them what's going on. So instead of them having to update their managers constantly, they can just give them the URL link as well. And it just saves everybody a lot of time. Automations and notifications have been really useful for us. It's something we are still looking into. I want to get using it more. So if anyone has any advice on that, any current users, Richard, I'm looking at you, that would be really, really great to have a chat. Automation essentially saves us lots of time, doesn't it? Which is what we want. We all want to save time so we can work on more important things. As a project manager, it's great for me if I can be notified when a task has been completed, because then I can make sure that we're moving on to the next thing, make sure that I'm notifying the client if needed, and so on. So what I've done is I've set up an automation across all of my project boards to notify me by email when a task has been completed. So that would be when the status has been set to complete. And as you can see just on the screen there, that's an example of the automation. Very, very simple to set up. And like I say, it runs across all of my boards, so I don't need to keep going in and changing anything. Charts. So when I first started using monday.com, I had no idea about the charts. I didn't even know they existed. I thought it was just the main table. And then my world was completely opened up to all the different chart types that you could generate. So with the main table, the data is essentially collected, and then you can transfer it into different types of charts depending on what view type you want. So I've just highlighted 3 here. There are many, many more to explore, but the 3 that I really like is the Gantt chart, because everybody loves a Gantt chart. Gives you a really good timeline visual. The Kanban chart. Kanban weirdly wasn't something that I worked with before, and a lot of people are surprised by that. But I've really taken to it through monday.com. So I actually break things down by status. So what I get is a view of how many tasks on a board are complete, how many are in progress, and so on. And then third of all, we have the workload chart. And actually, I noticed, Richard, you touched on this, and you taught me a few things about it that I didn't know. So me and Lauren were making notes. But yeah, it's been really good for managing resource, especially. So as you can see, just from the little image on the screen, we have a list of teams or people down the one side, and then across the board, we usually have it split week by week. We just find that easier because our projects can run over a long period of time. And essentially, like Richard said, the bigger the dot, the bigger the workload expected. So it just helps us to really kind of plan in advance and ensure that everybody has what they need to complete that work that's due. Okay, so to conclude, we will continue to work with Omnitas and hopefully learn about new features. I think me and Lauren could both agree we've learned a lot today from other people's presentations as well, which has been fantastic. But yeah, we're always looking for new ways to utilise the platform. Like I say, we're still really in our beginner stages of using it. So we're open to any suggestions that anyone has. And does anybody have any questions?